Revelation 12, 13, 17. Addendum. 3 beasts, 7 heads, 10 horns. This short addendum explores the 3 beasts of Revelation 12, 13, 17 from the perspective of the 10 horns, and will present you with another challenge, which is the role of the 4th beast that was, is not, yet is, to be found in the portrait of metaphors of Revelation 17, 13, and identifying the 7 heads of Revelation 13. Why bother? Because every detail in the Bible is for a purpose, and data points of ancient history and prophecy to unfold are expressed in the apocalypse, and those concepts are forged in the transitional phase of the 10-10 scenario, of the 10 successive 10 kings, and then 10 contemporaneous, that will help you to establish accurately why Revelation 13 is future and cannot be in the past. So close attention to detail is required to begin to see the plainest meaning, because Revelation 13 is future. Most will say this addendum is unnecessary, but then he who made explaining his status of Alpha and Omega in Mark 12 and Mark recorded that the common people heard him gladly. They were not left lost in the weeds. Read Mark 12. The 7 heads and the 10 horn count of Revelation 17, the scarlet beast. 17:13. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. The 7 heads and 10 horned, crowned count of Revelation 13, first beast. 13:1. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion, and the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. So here's the problem with Laodicea. Pastors, the elders in Laodicea will quibble about the leopard equals Greece, bear equals Medo-Persia, the lion equals Babylon, and respond, what's the point to study any further? But then Revelation 13 reads, the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and the seat and great authority. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death. Yes, the answer to this matter of 10 horns of Revelation 17 and 10 crowned horns of Revelation 13 is verse 13:3 above. Note the following. This fatal wound could not be the fall of Rome in 476 AD, which is way more logical than 1798. Yet, even 476 AD is not satisfactory, since 554 only restored the second social order of the church in the West. It could not be 1798 for the same reason. The church, Mystery Babylon, Mother of Harlots, the Scarlet Woman marked the is not period of the 4th beast, and the facts are clear. The church never stopped functioning in 1798, with Napoleon signing another concordat in 1801. The Roman Catholic Church was never the beast that was. She rode over the is not period. Nothing more, nothing less. The 4th beast undergoes the transition age in the form of 10 kings, which relate to foreign religion in the form of Arian Christianity and Trinitarian Christianity. Whereas the shift in Revelation 13 during the fatal wound time frame is from Christianity into Luciferianism. And the 1st beast of Revelation 13 was likened unto those 3 other animals, since it needs to be kept in mind that the beast that was now rises from the bottomless pit, equals Revelation 11, also represents those characteristics from the past. Yet this is the reason as to why the seven heads, in the form of descriptive animals, cannot define the seven heads of Revelation 13. Why? The 10:10 scenario of Revelation 13 is still yet future, and not within the timeline of either Revelation 12 or 17. It only falls within the timeline of Revelation 17 at the moment that the 10 regionalization takes place, and the highlights of this fact is not in favor of the silly sisters of Laodicea and their prophetic constructs. And why? Since this transition of the 10 contemporaneous kings marks the demise of the Scarlet Woman, which to all intents and purposes is completely missing, nor holds any power in Revelation 13 once the fatal wound is healed. And then the planet enters into the Luciferian age. And this video is actually being produced on the very day that the next Pope was announced. Laodiceans will respond with a comment about the leopard, bear, lion, and as they insist, they have Revelation 13 solved because they bring to the table their idea of the seven heads of the first beast to be the ancient nations of Daniel 7, equals the seven heads of Revelation 12 as being the truth. But of course, by now you will be realizing Revelation 13 is future, that the Scarlet Woman never existed prophetically prior to 313 AD. And noting from Revelation 17, the Scarlet Woman and her great city is destroyed, and so there you have it. How does Revelation 13 begin to support their ideas in any way, shape, or form? Why? Since the role of the woman in Revelation 17 clears up that matter in the form of the seven successive kings of 1710, which is the map leading to Revelation 13. Here's your 10-horn count. One horn, Liturgies. Two horn, Totila. Three horn, Tia. The end of the transition age, Daniel 7:8. There's your three. Five kings of Revelation 17 have fallen. Fourth horn, Justinian. First head, the woman rides in Revelation 17:10. Here's the fifth horn, Charlemagne. Second head. Sixth horn, Otto the Great. Third head. Seven horn, Charles V. Fourth head. Eighth horn, Napoleon Bonaparte. Fifth head. Ninth horn, King Victor Emmanuel, Axis Paris, Hitler Mussolini. The one is. Sixth head. 10 horn equals a great monarch. The other is not yet come, and when he cometh, he must continue a little while. Seventh head. The woman rides in Revelation 17 over all of those. Fact is that the woman never rode over those animal descriptions leading to Rome. And by the time Revelation 17:12 to 16 is reached, this was past history. And the woman is past history as well, as presented in Revelation 18, which equals Revelation 17:12 to 16. This is the reason as to why Daniel 11:36 is confusing, since it presents both the Roman emperor as well as the beast. Daniel 11:36 equals apotelismatic principle. But as you may know, since 1980, faculty at Laodicea deem the apotelismatic concept as a horrendous anathema, a grossly undesirable method of prophetic interpretation. Well, guess what? He who made himself established the apotelismatic principle with Daniel 8:13 and Daniel 12:12, and confirmed it with Matthew 24:15. Other examples exist, and if you pay attention, you will encounter this in the text set out in this addendum with reference to Revelation 12, 13, 17. The description of the woman riding the beast in Revelation 17:10 should dispel any concerns of laughter from the silly sisters of Laodicea regarding those 7 heads in Revelation 13. They are the last 7 kings which the woman rode over up to the grand monarch, the 7th king. The grand monarch receives the fatal wound, equals Revelation 13. And then comes the 8th king, the terrible king of fierce countenance that Daniel saw after the 10 horns. These are the same 10 successive horns which complete the map of Europe, and then comes the crowning of the 10 horns by way of the 8th king, equals Zechariah 8:23. And yeah, it's true, the ancient nations, equals animal metaphors, ran amok, and that was prior to the 4th beast. And the fact is, a residual patina of their character would exist with the first beast of Revelation 13. And the reason you can amend to this important detail is because the dragon was involved specifically in Revelation 12 and also in Revelation 13. Revelation 12, which was prior to the scarlet beast of Revelation 17, and the woman or church of Revelation 17 had no prophetic existence with the 7 heads of the great red dragon, and then came the 4th beast. Was, is not, yet is. But here is where the various transitions or phases of the animal metaphors still hold a characteristic of the old beast prior to the 4th beast. And the thing is this, that accumulation of stuff is carried over to the last era of time, equals, and revealed in the patina of character of the first beast, but is not about the heads of that chapter in any way, shape, or form. Another amen to that. Why? The latter days of the first beast of Revelation 13 is where God rightly portrays this beast with the leopard for speed, the bare feet for strength, and the lion mouth evoking much power. And that this speed and power will come in the form of expeditionary forces that are swift in deployment in any part of the world, along with strength and great authority. No different from the past. But now the picture of Revelation 12:6 brings in the wilderness scenario and 1260 years, and those ancient characteristics are confirmations of the scarlet beasts and the woman's reign of what Daniel was told as being the era known as the transgression of desolation. And boom, then it carrieth to the apotalismatic of the first beast, equals 1260 days, literally, equals Revelation 12:14, the time and a half. And the fact is, the first beast of Revelation 13 has to carry the patina characteristics or likeness of the leopard, bear, lion, and also the attributes of the great red dragon. Why? Because the dragon is to be worshipped in the Luciferian era. But also, the influence of the dragon of Revelation 12 continues to the very end. The dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ, equals 8th king, and then the dragon is presented into chapter 13. For those who may not have caught the full picture of metaphors until now, what is soon to be experienced is the second wilderness phase of Revelation 12:14, and why Isaiah 2:6 brings that into reality, because to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she is nourished for a time and times and a half a time from the face of the serpent. And also because the continuance of the 4th beast that was, is not, and yet is, equals pagan, scarlet, and Luciferian. God has paralleled the dragon's influence all down history. The ancient aspects of the great red dragon are providing an additional and continued element of a complex tapestry of what God is saying about the accumulation of all that power and strength to be unleashed at the end of time. This prophetic is presented in Isaiah 2:6, grasping hands with spiritualism, equals what he who made said was an abomination of desolation, equals Daniel 12 and not Daniel 8:13. And also the time of the abomination of desolation equals Matthew 24:15. There is unity consciousness and law of one, and it's outright spiritualism against the He who made, who is also the true Alpha and Omega. Who are the seven heads of Revelation 13 that have 10 horns, and 3 of whom were subdued? 13:1. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads a name of blasphemy. Based on the 10:10 scenario of the 10 contemporaneous kings. Thought questions? Well, the future is not possible to predict in naming the 10 kings. Why does the first beast have 7 heads, and who are they? Are the 7 heads of Revelation 13 in fact 7 regions? Equals 7 heads that incorporated the 10 contemporaneous kings when 3 are subdued? Are the 7 heads proportional to the transition age from the Scarlet to Luciferian? Meaning the 7 heads are from Justinian to the 7th king equals Grand Monarch. And the emphasis you will discover is not of the 7 heads of Revelation 13 at all, but the crowned contemporaries. So who were the 7 heads of Revelation 13? Justinian, Charlemagne, Otto the Great, Charles V, and Napoleon. King Victor Emmanuel and the Grand Monarch are successive kings. There is then the transition to the 10 kings, equals Zechariah 8:23, that have 10 contemporaneous kings, and Daniel 7 states the 3 heads are subdued, but not uprooted. But when? Good question. It could take place under the Grand Monarch, 7th king, as in 3 kings that were brought down, yet had nothing to do with the successive scenario after the fall of the first 3 Aryan kings, Witigis, Totila, and Tian, marking the end of the transition age. And then it may be the downfall of 3 contemporaries, equals Daniel 7:24, of the 7th king, such as France, Britain, or the Holy Roman Empire. The 7 heads of Revelation 13. The 7 heads of Revelation 13 are those successive 7 kings from Revelation 17:10, with the 7th falling at Daniel 11:45. Unlikely that the 7 heads are contemporaneous, since they have to be successive in order to bring about and into play the 10th successive horn. What is the proof there is the 10:10 is 10 successive horns and 10 contemporaneous horns? Proof of this is that in Revelation 13, the crowns are on the horns, not the heads. It's because of Revelation 17, which is the prophetic map, which is divided into 2 sections. The first 3 Aryan kings and the last are the 7 Holy Roman Empire kings, equals the 10 successive and 10th contemporaneous union. Are the 7 heads proportional to the transition age from the Scarlet to Luciferian? They are only proportional from the starting date of the barbarian wars, which began in 535 and ended in 553 AD, meaning the 7 heads was past history. Justinian of 5 fallen kings, then to the 7th king, equals Grand Monarch. This is correct, since they were the last 7 successive horns, which were united with the last 3 Ostrogoth kings, form the prophetic yet successive map of Europe, leading to the final contemporaneous union. Therefore, the emphasis of Revelation 13 is not on the heads, but on the 10 crowned contemporaries. And this is correct, since they are the 10 as depicted in Zechariah 8:23. It's inevitable that Laodicea were to laugh at the leopard-bearded lion of Revelation 13 and say, how do you prove this? Then Laodicea has to explain the following 2 scenarios. Revelation 12, 7 heads, 10 horns, and 7 crowns on the heads. And then explain the 7 heads, 10 horns, Revelation 17, in comparison to the 7 heads, 10 horns, and 10 crowns on the horns, Revelation 13. This detail is charted for the reader at the end of this discussion. The red dragon's heads, prior to the woman, represent Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greco-Macedonia, equals 4 leopards, and the dreadful beast culminates in the dragon, the power behind Rome. The 10 horns represent the transition age to the Papa Pointy Hat, since the first 3 to be uprooted from history are Witiges, Totila, and Tia. The last 7 are Justinian, Charlemagne, Otto the Great, Charles V, and Napoleon, and King Victor Emmanuel, and the Axis powers, and then the 7th king, the Grand Monarch, equals 10 successive horns. Yet the 7 heads which are crowned in Revelation 12 are indicative not of its 10 horns, which are still future, but are representative of the Pax Romana of Rome, being the 7th head through which the dragon would persecute the man-child that ascended to heaven. In Revelation 17, again, the 7 heads and 10 horns are present. But in this scenario, she, the woman, sits over 7 kings, which are from 554 to the Grand Monarch, and they in turn up to the 7th, and that detail from Revelation 17 completes the first portion of the 10-10 scenario. The last portion of being Revelation 13 completes the picture of the 10-10 as indicative of when the 10th and the final Scarlet King arrives, and then it's time, the time frame for his elimination equals Revelation 17:10 equals Daniel 11:45, and the rise of the Luciferian age of the 8th king, which culminates in a global contemporaneous union equals Zechariah 8:23. 10-10 scenario. In a nutshell, 10 successive kings commencing at the end of the transition age, and its last 3 Ostrogoth kings up to the 7th of Revelation 17:10. Final portion of the 10-10 equals the final contemporaneous union, or 10 toes of iron mixed with clay. It makes sense the 7 crowned heads of the great red dragon were the imperial heads who ruled from Babylon, Medo-Persia to Greece, times 4, and pagan Rome, as defined in Daniel 7. Rome emerged as the 4th beast with 10-10 scenario. In the transition phase to the scarlet beast, with a woman rider, to the next transition phase to the first beast, with 10 contemporaries. 10 horns in summary. Great red dragon has 10 horns, equals 3 Aryan, and Papa Pointy Hat 7 equals 10 horns. The 4th beast has 10 horns, equals 3 Aryan, and Papa Pointy Hat 7 equals 10 horns, and a little horn. Scarlet Beast of chapter 17 equals 3 Aryan and 7 Papa Pointy Hat equals 10 horns. Why allocate the 10 horns to the great red dragon as being Aryan 3 and Papa Pointy Hat 7, when the next beast, the 4th, has the same 10 horns? Answer: because it's an undeniable fact that the red dragon tried to destroy the man-child by way of Rome during the Pax Romana. Also factor into the account that the concept of 10 horns specifically relates to the Roman Empire according to Daniel 7, and from a biblical perspective, one cannot create constructs of previous empires in relation to the 10 horns, which from a Bible-based perspective of Daniel 2 and 7 culminate with Rome extending to the end of the age and not prior to the Roman Empire. The great red dragon fourth beast, and scarlet beast, and rising beast all relate to the 10 horns. The 10-10 scenario. Question. The era of the great red dragon had ancient religions like the Mithraic bull cult, and in the same era had the true religion of Moses and the sanctuary service, and there was no Papa Pointy Hat, and of course the classic being he who made destroying 185,000 Assyrian soldiers or Sennacherib for King Hezekiah's protection, being the era of the great red dragon and the first temple of Solomon. Answer. Yes, that is true, yet there is no Bible evidence linking these to the 10 horns from their evolving perspective as they relate to the end of the transition age. While this appears to be contradictory, the items mentioned in the highlights are in relation to the mystery religions outside of the framework of the 10 horns. Fact is that the time frame of the great red dragon relates to that of the man-child and not prior. Question. Why allocate the 10 horn narrative on the great red dragon as being Aryan 3 and Papa Pointy Hat 7 when the next beast was the fourth, had the same 10 horns? Answer. Because it's the same mystery religion. 10 horns is an evolving concept over time. Point 1. Revelation 12 presents the 10 horns as future, as seen by Daniel in chapter 2 and 7, equals as a prophecy which was yet present during the Pax Romana. Same as Daniel 7, which first targets the fourth beast, yet not fulfilled on account of the seventh crowned head, which was Roman peace throughout the ancient world. Point 2. Revelation 17 is evolving successively within the framework of Revelation 17:10 and the second social order of the church. Point 3. Revelation 13 within the time frame of its completion as in the 10 successive and 10 contemporaneous. These 3 points reveal the was, is not, and yet is to ascend from the bottomless pit. Fact is that the time frame relates to that of the man-child and not prior. And if you are still paying attention to this point of the addendum of Revelation 12, 13, and 17, Daniel 7 discussion, you will be privileged to find another prophetic gem. The fact God established the 10-10 scenario from the time of the great red dragon of Revelation 12 is true. It had 10 horns. When the scales are removed, you will realize the birth of the man-child is in context of the fourth beast, which is framed in the prophetic text of the great red dragon of Revelation 12. And then bingo, the 10-10 bigger picture sits in Revelation 12. All along. How? And if you see this detail, then God has set out a very plain factual apotalismatic revelation of prophecy when the scenarios of the 2 wildernesses are introduced in Revelation 12, 6, and 14. That detail of Revelation 12, 6, and 14 alone tells anyone who has ears to hear and eyes to see the apotalismatic principle is truly valid. This is another challenge to Laodicea, all the way through to remnant of the woman's seed, the ultimate war against the secreted ones of Psalms 83. No wonder the Alpha and the Omega of deadly heresies is a serious level of deadly spiritualism, and the clasping hands with spiritualism. 10 Kings evolution over time. Mystery influence, here's time. Revelation 12, Great Red Dragon. 7 crowned heads, 10 horns, Daniel 7. Birth of the man-child, fourth beast was Daniel 7, 10 horns. 1260 years wilderness. Here's the transition age. Here's the was. Here's the is not. Fourth beast, scarlet beast, Revelation 17. 10 horns. Little horn uprooted 3 Aryan. Widages to Tilantia. 7 Papa Pointy Hat kings. 5 fallen. They're successive from 554 AD. Written by the woman. Revelation 17. One is and the other is not come. There's Victor Emmanuel, the 6th king, the 7th king, Grand Monarch, 4th beast. Here's the yet is period. Transition phase. There's the first beast in Revelation 13. 10 contemporary kings. Revelation 17:1, Zechariah 8:23. Destroy the woman of Revelation 17. And these 10 horns have 10 crowns. Here's your 1260 days wilderness. Time times half time. Revelation 12:14. 1260 days. Revelation 11:3. The 42 months. Revelation 11:2. And Revelation 13:5. The great red dragon, the beast of the bottomless pit. Luciferian age. Abomination of desolation. Matthew 24. The fact the great red dragon begins the ancient animal system in time, which is on the left, and then the prophecy is significantly relevant to the 10 kings, but at the time of the birth, the man-child, which is the crucial point of number 1 of the great red dragon, the beast is the fourth, but no prophetic activity of the 10 horns. Without this evidence, the birth of the man-child, which is at the time then fourth terrible beast, was the detail of the 10 horns still has an evolving relationship with the animal metaphors. The 10:10 scenario commences at the time of the 10 horns of Daniel 7:8 with the 3 Aryan kings, and then followed by the successive 7 Papa Pointy Hat kings, and the 10:10 scenario holds its own in the evolution of the 10 horns. The critical 10:10 point, number 2, is the fourth beast, in black and gray, and it's identified as was, is not, yet is, at the center of the chart. The first beast is integrated in the lime green time frame. Summary: the integration is the color scheme denotes the reign of the 4 beasts, showing the pale yellow of the great red dragon, and you will notice Revelation 12 introduces 2 wilderness scenarios, equals 12, 6, and 14. And of course, the great red dragon is prophetically involved all through time to the end, when the dragon is specified as at war with the remnant of the woman's seed, equals Revelation 12:17, equals future. What this means is the 10 horns of the great red dragon is about the animal metaphors, and they are, as you know, replicated in the first beast of Revelation 13:1 and 2. But by this time of the 1290 days of Revelation 13, those characteristics prove the involvement of the 10 kings of the great red dragon that became 3 Aryan and then 7 scarlet kings for the animal speed and fierceness, then becomes the 10 contemporary king scenario, equals Revelation 13 and Daniel 7:23-24, as distinct with Daniel 7:8 and the fourth beast. Why bother understanding the 10:10 scenario? The importance of the 10:10 scenario. God has provided the prophetic details of the 10 kings, from the great red dragon to the fourth beast, thence to the scarlet beast, and much prophetic activity with the first beast of Revelation 13 in the destruction of the scarlet woman, equals Revelation 17:12-16. The great red dragon of Revelation 12 has 10 horns, equals 10 successive kingdoms, future, from the time of Jesus Christ's death on the cross and his ascension to heaven. The impure woman of Revelation 17 also has 10 successive kingdoms. The first 3 of the 10 were the Aryan barbarian tribesmen Wittiges, Totil, and Tia. The Bible states that they were uprooted by the little horn, a religious kingdom of which she rode over 7 of them. See Revelation 17:10. The woman sits over 7 kings. Justinian was that first king that uprooted the first 3 Aryan kings. The first beast of Revelation 13 equals the 10th and final government of the woman riding over it, her 7th scarlet king, and thence it receives a fatal wound that is later healed with another emperor who is different from the previous 10 successive kingdom leaders, since he is Luciferian. His government will last a literal 3.5 years. Then 1 month later in literal time, which equals 30 days, we arrive at the 1290 literal fulfillment, fulfilled days, equals Matthew 24:15, equals Daniel 12:11. And the final abomination, desolation, takes place after the final 42 months, equals 1260 days in literal time, or 3.5 years, literal years, of allotted time granted to the beast, which takes place after the death and ascension of the two witnesses of Revelation 11. The miracle working false prophet then takes the global spotlight as the emergent second beast coming up from the earth, exercises all the power of the first beast, which culminates in a global law of the worship of the so-called one superconsciousness, based on Deuteronomy 6, 4, and 8. You thought it was a Sunday law? Think again. It cannot be. The specified reasons are the following. The fulfillment of Zechariah 8:23 equals the fulfillment of Revelation 17, 12 to 16, which is the repudiation of the scarlet woman, and the helm of the ship is taken over by way of the eighth king, who is the diverse king that Daniel saw in his vision after viewing the 10 horns. Then zero in on the religious affiliation of the guy in Zechariah 23 and compare it to his name in Revelation 17, 12 to 16. Question. This level of detail exists in the summary of history, past and future. But then, is this level of detail suitable for the present? Serves as a preparatory awareness for the loud cry following the 10 kings who have power 1 hour with the beast that sees the utter destruction of the illicit woman and her great city, equals Revelation 17, 12 to 16. And then, does this 10-10 king scenario implore anyone who will listen to then recognize there is World War III with the seventh king, who is the last of the 10 successive kings, equals Daniel 11:45, who lasts a short space? And then, in the next transition, really, is the next transition really about the time he who made warned as the abomination of desolation, the 1290 days of Matthew 24:15? But then, does the 10-10 scenario from the great red dragon era of Revelation 12 down to the fourth beast, was phase, to its transition to the is not phase, as the scarlet beast, and then the last transition to the first beast of Revelation 13, the yet is phase of the fourth beast? Does that not provide a glimpse about the critical importance of the seal of God, equals Revelation 7 with Ezekiel 9, and the necessary divinely mandated cleansing and the mark provided by the man with the writer's inkhorn that occurs now in the last ministration of the final atonement, which is pursuant is the war of the great red dragon, Revelation 12:17? Important? Yes.